The Glass Menagerie by Tennessee Williams. Nobody, not even the rain, has such small hands. E. E. Cummings. The characters. Amanda Wingfield, the mother. Laurette Taylor, a little woman of great but confused vitality clinging frantically to another time and place. Her characterization must be carefully created, not copied from type. She is not paranoiac, but her life is paranoia. There is much to admire in Amanda, and as much to love and pity as there is to laugh at. Certainly she has endurance and a kind of heroism, and though her foolishness makes her unwittingly cruel at times, there is tenderness in her slight person. Laura Wingfield, her daughter, Julie Hayden. Amanda, having failed to establish contact with reality, continues to live vitally in her illusions. But Laura's situation is even graver. A childhood illness has left her crippled, one leg slightly shorter than the other and held in a brace. This defect need not be more than suggested on the stage. Stemming from this, Laura's separation increases till she is like a piece of her own glass collection, too exquisitely fragile to move from the shelf. Tom Wingfield, her son, Eddie Dowling, and the narrator of the play, a poet with a job in a warehouse. His nature is not remorseless, but to escape from a trap he has to act without pity. Jim O'Connor, the gentleman caller, Anthony Ross, a nice, ordinary young man. Scene: an alley in St. Louis. Part 1, Preparation for a Gentleman Caller. Part 2, The Gentleman Calls. Time: now and the past. Production notes. Being a memory play, The Glass Menagerie can be presented with unusual freedom of convention. Because of its considerably delicate or tenuous material, atmospheric touches and the subtleties of direction play a particularly important part. Expressionism and all other unconventional techniques in drama have only one valid aim, and that is a closer approach to truth. When a play employs unconventional techniques, it is not, or certainly shouldn't be, trying to escape its responsibility of dealing with reality, or interpreting experience, but is actually or should be attempting to find a closer approach, a more penetrating and vivid expression of things as they are. The straight realistic play, with its genuine Frigidaire and authentic ice cubes, its characters that speak exactly as its audience speaks, corresponds to the academic landscape and has the same virtue of a photographic likeness. Everyone should know nowadays the unimportance of the photographic in art, that truth, life, or reality is an organic thing, which the poetic imagination can represent or suggest in essence only through transformation, through changing into other forms than those which were merely present in appearance. These remarks are not meant as a preface only to this particular play. They have to do with a conception of a new plastic theater, which must take the place of the exhausted theater of realistic conventions, if the theater is to resume vitality as a part of our culture. The screen device. There is only one important difference between the original and acting version of the play, and that is the omission in the latter of the device which I tentatively included in my original script. This device was the use of a screen on which were projected magic lantern slides bearing images or titles. I do not regret the omission of this device from the present Broadway production. The extraordinary power of Miss Taylor's performance made it suitable to have the utmost simplicity in the physical production. But I think it may be interesting to some readers to see how this device was conceived. So I am putting it into the published manuscript. These images and legends projected from behind were cast on a section of wall between the front room and dining room areas, which should be indistinguishable from the rest when not in use. The purpose of this will probably be apparent. It is to give accent to certain values in each scene. Each scene contains a particular point, or several, which is structurally the most important. In an episodic play such as this, the basic structure or narrative line may be obscured from the audience. The effect may seem fragmentary rather than architectural. This may not be the fault of the play so much as a lack of attention in the audience. The legend or image upon the screen will strengthen the effect of what is merely illusion in the writing, and allow the primary point to be made more simply and lightly than if the entire responsibility were on the spoken lines. Aside from the structural value, I think the screen will have a definite emotional appeal, less definable but just as important. An imaginative producer or director may invent many other uses for this device than those indicated in the present script. In fact, the possibilities of the device seem much larger to me than the instance of this play can possibly utilize. The music. Another extra literary accent in this play is provided by the use of music. A single recurring tune, the Glass Menagerie, is used to give emotional emphasis to suitable passages. This tune is like circus music, not when you are on the grounds or in the immediate vicinity of the parade, but when you are at some distance and very likely thinking of something else. It seems under those circumstances to continue almost interminably, and it weaves in and out of your preoccupied consciousness. Then it is the lightest, most delicate music in the world, and perhaps the saddest. It expresses the surface vivacity of life with the underlying strain of immutable and inexpressible sorrow. When you look at a piece of delicately spun glass, you think of two things: how beautiful it is, and how easily it can be broken. Both of those ideas should be woven into the recurring tune, which dips in and out of the play as if it were carried on a wind that changes. It serves as a thread of connection and illusion between the narrator with his separate point in time and space and the subject of his story. Between each episode, it returns as reference to the emotion, nostalgia, which is the first condition of the play. It is primarily Laura's music, and therefore comes out most clearly when the play focuses upon her and the lovely fragility of glass, which is her image. The lighting. The lighting in the play is not realistic. In keeping with the atmosphere of memory, the stage is dim. Shafts of light are focused on selected areas or actors, sometimes in contradistinction to what is the apparent center. For instance, in the quarrel scene between Tom and Amanda, in which Laura has no active part, the clearest pool of light is on her figure. This is also true of the supper scene, which her silent figure on the sofa should remain the visual center. The light upon Laura should be distinct from the others. having a peculiar pristine clarity such as light used in early religious portraits of female saints or Madonnas. A certain correspondence to light in religious paintings such as El Greco's, where the figures are radiant in atmosphere that is relatively dusky, could be effectively used throughout the play. It will also permit a more effective use of the screen. A free, imaginative use of light can be of enormous value in giving a mobile, plastic quality to plays of a more or less static nature. TW. Scene 1. The Wingfield apartment is in the rear of the building, one of those vast hive-like conglomerations of cellular living units that flower as warty growths in overcrowded urban centers of lower middle-class population, and are symptomatic of the impulse of this largest and fundamentally enslaved section of American society to avoid fluidity and differentiation, and to exist and function as one interfused mass of automatism. The apartment faces an alley and is entered by a fire escape, a structure whose name is a touch of accidental poetic truth, for all of these huge buildings are always burning with the slow and implacable fires of human desperation. The fire escape is included in the set, that is, the landing of it and steps descending from it. The scene is memory and is therefore non-realistic. Memory takes a lot of poetic license. It omits some details. Others are exaggerated. According to the emotional value of the articles it touches, for memory is seated predominantly in the heart. The interior is therefore rather dim and poetic. At the rise of the curtain, the audience is faced with the dark, grim rear wall of the Wingfield tenement. This building, which runs parallel to the footlights, is flanked on both sides by dark, narrow alleys which run into murky canyons of tangled clotheslines, garbage cans, and the sinister latticework of neighboring fire escapes. It is up and down these side alleys that exterior entrances and exits are made during the play. At the end of Tom's opening commentary, the dark tenement wall slowly reveals, by means of a transparency, the interior of the ground floor Wingfield apartment. Downstage is the living room, which also serves as a sleeping room for Laura, the sofa unfolding to make her bed. Upstage center and divided by a wide arch or second proscenium with transparent faded portieres or second curtain is the dining room. In an old-fashioned whatnot in the living room are seen scores of transparent glass animals. A blown-up photograph of the father hangs on the wall of the living room, facing the audience to the left of the archway. It is the face of a very handsome young man in a doughboy's First World War cap. He is gallantly smiling, ineluctably smiling, as if to say, "I will be smiling forever." The audience hears and sees the opening scene in the dining room through both the transparent fourth wall of the building and the transparent gauze portieres of the dining room arch. It is during this revealing scene that the fourth wall slowly ascends out of sight. This transparent exterior wall is not brought down again until the very end of the play, during Tom's final speech. The narrator is an undisguised convention of the play. He takes whatever license with dramatic convention as is convenient to his purposes. Tom enters dressed as a merchant sailor from alley stage left and strolls across the front of the stage to the fire escape. There he stops and lights a cigarette. He addresses the audience. Tom. Yes, I have tricks in my pocket. I have things up my sleeve. But I am the opposite of a stage magician. He gives you illusion that has the appearance of truth. I give you truth in the pleasant disguise of illusion. To begin with, I turn back time. I reverse it to that quaint period, the 30s, when the huge middle class of America was matriculating in a school for the blind. Their eyes had failed them, or they had failed their eyes, and so they were having their fingers pressed forcibly down on the fiery Braille alphabet of a dissolving economy. In Spain there was revolution. Here there was only shouting and confusion. In Spain there was Guernica. Here there were disturbances of labor, sometimes pretty violent, in otherwise peaceful cities such as Chicago, Cleveland, St. Louis. This is the social background of the play. Music. The play is memory. Being a memory play, it is dimly lighted. It is sentimental. It is not realistic. In memory, everything seems to happen to music. That explains the fiddle in the wings. I am the narrator of the play, and also a character in it. The other characters are my mother, Amanda, my sister, Laura, and a gentleman caller who appears in the final scenes. He is the most realistic character in the play, being an emissary from a world of reality that we were somehow set apart from. But since I have a poet's weakness for symbols, I am using this character also as a symbol. He is the long-delayed but always expected something that we live for. There is a fifth character in the play who doesn't appear except in this larger-than-life-size photograph over the mantel. This is our father, who left us a long time ago. He was a telephone man who fell in love with long distances. He gave up his job with the telephone company and skipped the light fantastic out of town. The last we heard of him was a picture postcard from Mazatlan on the Pacific coast of Mexico containing a message of 2 words. Hello, goodbye, and no address. I think the rest of the play will explain itself. Amanda's voice becomes audible through the portieres. Legend on screen, On sent la neige. He divides the portieres and enters the upstage area. Amanda and Laura are seated at a drop-leaf table. Eating is indicated by gestures without food or utensils. Amanda faces the audience. Tom and Laura are seated in profile. The interior has lit up softly, and through the scrim we see Amanda and Laura seated at the table in the upstage area. Amanda, calling. Tom? Tom, yes, mother? Amanda, we can't say grace until you come to the table. Tom, coming, mother. He bows slightly and withdraws, reappearing a few moments later in his place at the table. Amanda to her son, honey, don't push with your fingers. If you have to push with something, the thing to push with is a crust of bread. And chew, chew. Animals have sections in their stomachs which enable them to digest food without mastication. But human beings are supposed to chew their food before they swallow it down. Eat food leisurely, son, and really enjoy it. A well-cooked meal has a lot of delicate flavors that have to be held in the mouth for appreciation. So chew your food and give your salivary glands a chance to function. Tom deliberately lays his imaginary fork down and pushes his chair back from the table. Tom, I haven't enjoyed one bite of this dinner because of your constant directions on how to eat it. It's you that make me rush through meals with your hawk-like attention to every bite I take. Sickening. Spoils my appetite, all this discussion of animal secretions. Secretion. Salivary glands. Mastication. Amanda, lightly. Temperament like a metropolitan star. He rises and crosses downstage. You're not excused from the table. Tom, I'm getting a cigarette. Amanda, you smoke too much. Laura rises. Laura, I'll bring in the blanc mange. He remains standing with his cigarette by the portieres during the following. Amanda, rising. No, sister, you be the lady this time, and I'll be the darky. Laura, I'm already up. Amanda, resume your seat, little sister. I want you to stay fresh and pretty for gentlemen callers. Laura, I'm not expecting any gentlemen callers. Amanda, crossing out to the kitchenette airily. Sometimes they come when they are least expected. Why, I remember one Sunday afternoon in Blue Mountain, enters kitchenette. Tom, I know what's coming. Laura, yes, but let her tell it. Tom, again. Laura, she loves to tell it. Amanda returns with a bowl of dessert. Amanda, one Sunday afternoon in Blue Mountain, your mother received 17 gentlemen callers. Why, sometimes there weren't chairs enough to accommodate them all. We had to send the guy over to bring in folding chairs from the parish house. Tom, remaining at portieres. How did you entertain those gentlemen callers? Amanda, I understood the art of conversation. Tom, I bet you could talk. Amanda, girls in those days knew how to talk, I can tell you. Tom, yes. Image, Amanda as a girl on a porch greeting callers. Amanda, they knew how to entertain their gentlemen callers. It wasn't enough for a girl to be possessed of a pretty face and a graceful figure, although I wasn't slighted in either respect. She also needed to have a nimble wit and a tongue to meet all occasions. Tom, what did you talk about? Amanda, things of importance going on in the world. Never anything coarse or common or vulgar. She addresses Tom as though he were seated in the vacant chair at the table, though he remains by portieres. He plays this scene as though he held the book. My callers were gentlemen, all. Among my callers were some of the most prominent young planters of the Mississippi Delta. Planters and sons of planters. Tom motions for music and a spot of light on Amanda. Her eyes lift, her face glows. Her voice becomes rich and elegiac. Screen legend. Au son la neige. There was young Champ Laughlin, who later became vice president of the Delta Planters Bank. Hadley Stevenson, who was drowned in Moon Lake and left his $150,000 in government bonds. There were the Cutler brothers, Wesley and Bates. Bates was one of my bright particular beaux. He got in a quarrel with that wild Wainwright boy. It shot it out on the floor of Moon Lake Casino. Bates was shot through the stomach. Died in the ambulance on his way to Memphis. His widow was also well provided for. Came into 8 or 10,000 acres, that's all. She married him on the rebound. Never loved her. Carried my picture on him the night he died. And there was that boy that every girl in the Delta had set her cap for. That beautiful, brilliant young Fitzhugh boy from Greene County. Tom, what did he leave his widow? Amanda, he never married. Gracious, you talk as though all my old admirers had turned up their toes to the daisies. Tom, isn't this the first you've mentioned that still survives? Amanda, that Fitzhugh boy went north and made a fortune. Came to be known as the Wolf of Wall Street. He had the Midas touch. Whatever he touched turned to gold. That could have been Mrs. Duncan J. Fitzhugh, mind you. But I picked your father. Laura, rising. Mother, let me clear the table. Amanda, no, dear, you go in front and study your typewriter chart. Or practice your shorthand a little. Stay fresh and pretty. It's almost time for our gentlemen callers to start arriving. She flounces girlishly towards the kitchenette. How many do you suppose we're going to entertain this afternoon? Tom throws down the paper and jumps up with a groan. Laura, alone in the dining room. I don't believe we're going to receive any, Mother. Amanda, reappearing airily. What? No one? Not one? You must be joking. Laura nervously echoes her laugh. She slips into a fugitive manner through the half-open portieres and draws them gently behind her. A shaft of very clear light is thrown on her face against the faded tapestry of the curtains. Music. The Glass Menagerie. Under faintly. Lightly. Not one gentleman caller? It can't be true. There must be a flood. There must have been a tornado. Laura. It isn't a flood. It's not a tornado, Mother. I'm just not popular like you were in Blue Mountain. Tom utters another groan. Laura glances at him with a faint, apologetic smile, her voice catching a little. Mother's afraid I'm gonna be an old maid. The scene dims out with Glass Menagerie music. Scene 2. Laura, haven't you ever liked some boy? On the dark stage, the screen is lighted with the image of blue roses. Gradually, Laura's figure becomes apparent, and the screen goes out. The music subsides. Laura is seated in the delicate ivory chair at the small clawfoot table. She wears a dress of soft violet material for a kimono, her hair tied back from her forehead with a ribbon. She is washing and polishing her collection of glass. Amanda appears on the fire escape steps. At the sound of her ascent, Laura catches her breath, thrusts the bowl of ornaments away, and seats herself stiffly before the diagram of the typewriter keyboard, as though it held her spellbound. Something has happened to Amanda. It is written in her face as she climbs to the landing, a look that is grim and hopeless and a little absurd. She has on one of those cheap or imitation velvety-looking cloth coats with imitation fur collar. Her hat is 5 or 6 years old, one of those dreadful cloche hats that were worn in the late 20s, and she is clasping an enormous black patent leather pocketbook with nickel clasps and initials. This is her full dress outfit, the one she usually wears to the DAR. Before entering, she looks through the door. She purses her lips, opens her eyes very wide, rolls them upward, and shakes her head. And she slowly lets herself in the door. Seeing her mother's expression, Laura touches her lips with a nervous gesture. Laura. Hello, Mother. She makes a nervous gesture towards the chart on the wall. Amanda leans against the shut door and stares at Laura with a martyred look. Amanda. Deception? Deception? She slowly removes her hat and gloves, continuing the sweet suffering stare. She lets the hat and gloves fall on the floor, a bit of acting. Laura, shakily. How was the DAR meeting? Amanda slowly opens her purse and removes a dainty white handkerchief, which she shakes out delicately, and delicately touches to her lips and nostrils. Didn't you go to the DAR meeting, Mother? Amanda, faintly, almost inaudibly. No. No. Then more forcibly. I did not have the strength to go to the DAR. In fact, I did not have the courage. I wanted to find a hole in the ground and hide myself in it forever. She crosses slowly to the wall and removes the diagram of the typewriter keyboard. She holds it in front of her for a second, staring at it sweetly and sorrowfully, then bites her lips and tears it in two pieces. Laura, faintly. Why did you do that, Mother? Amanda repeats the same procedure with the chart of the Greg alphabet. Why are you... Amanda, why? Why? How old are you, Laura? Laura. Mother, you know my age. Amanda. I thought that you were an adult. It seems that I was mistaken. She crosses slowly to the sofa and sinks down and stares at Laura. Laura. Please don't stare at me, Mother. Amanda closes her eyes and lowers her head. Count 10. Amanda. What are we going to do? What is going to become of us? What is the future? Count 10. Laura. Has something happened, Mother? Amanda draws a long breath and takes out the handkerchief again. Dabbing process. Mother, has something happened? Amanda. I'll be alright in a minute. I'm just bewildered. Count 5. By life. Laura. Mother, I wish that you would tell me what's happened. Amanda. As you know, I was supposed to be inducted into my office at the DAR this afternoon. Image. A swarm of typewriters. But I stopped off at Rubicam's Business College to speak to your teachers about your having a cold and ask them what progress they thought you were making down there. Laura. Oh. Amanda. I went to the typing instructor and introduced myself as your mother. She didn't know who you were. Wingfield, she said. We don't have any such student enrolled at this school. I assured her she did, that you had been going to classes since early in January. I wonder, she said, if you could be talking about that terribly shy little girl who dropped out of school after only a few days' attendance. No, I said, Laura, my daughter has been going to school every day for the past 6 weeks. Excuse me, she said. She took the attendance book out, and there was your name, unmistakably printed and all the dates you were absent until they decided that you had dropped out of school. I still said, no, there must have been some mistake. There must have been some mix-up in the records. And she said, no, I remember her perfectly now. Her hand shook so that she couldn't hit the right keys. The first time we gave a speed test, she broke down completely, was sick at the stomach, and almost had to be carried into the washroom. After that morning, she never showed up anymore. We phoned the house but never got any answer. Well, I was working at the Famousin bar, I suppose, demonstrating those... Oh, I felt so weak I could barely keep on my feet. I had to sit down while they got me a glass of water. $50 tuition. All of our plans, my hopes and ambitions for you, just gone up the spout. Just gone up the spout like that. Laura draws a long breath and gets awkwardly to her feet. She crosses to the Victrola and winds it up. What are you doing? Laura. Oh. She releases the handle and returns to her seat. Amanda. Laura, where have you been going when you've gone out pretending that you were going to business college? Laura. I've just been going out walking. Amanda. That's not true. Laura. It is. I just went walking. Amanda. Walking? Walking? In winter? Deliberately courting pneumonia in that light coat? Where did you walk to, Laura? Laura. All sorts of places. Mostly in the park. Amanda. Even after you'd started catching that cold? Laura. It was the lesser of two evils, Mother. Image. Winter scene in park. I couldn't go back up. I threw up on the floor. Amanda. From 7:30 till after 5 every day, you mean to tell me you walked around in the park because you wanted to make me think that you were still going to Rubicam's business college? Laura. It wasn't as bad as it sounds. I went inside places to get warmed up. Amanda. Inside where? Laura. I went in the art museum and the birdhouses at the zoo. I visited the penguins every day. Sometimes I did without lunch and went to the movies. Lately, I've been spending most of my afternoon in the box, that big glass house where they raise the tropical flowers. Amanda. You did all this to deceive me just for deception? Laura looks down. Why? Laura. Mother, when you're disappointed, you get that awful suffering look on your face, like the picture of Jesus' mother in the museum. Amanda. Hush. Laura. I couldn't face it. Pause. A whisper of strings. Legend. The crust of humility. Amanda. Hopelessly fingering the huge pocketbook. So, what are we going to do the rest of our lives? Stay home and watch the parades go by? Amuse ourselves with the Glass Menagerie, darling? Eternally play those worn-out phonograph records your father left as a painful reminder of him? We won't have a business career. We've given that up because it gave us nervous indigestion. Laughs wearily. What is there left but dependency all our lives? I know so well what becomes of unmarried women who aren't prepared to occupy a position. I've seen such pitiful cases in the South. Barely tolerated spinsters living upon the grudging patronage of sister's husband or brother's wife. Stuck away in some little mousetrap of a room. Encouraged by one in-law to visit another. Like bird-like women without any nest. Eating the crust of humility all their life. Is that the future that we've mapped out for ourselves? I swear it's the only alternative I can think of. It isn't a very pleasant alternative, is it? Of course, some girls do marry. Laura twists her hands nervously. Haven't you ever liked some boy? Laura. Yes, I liked one once. Rises. I came across his picture a while ago. Amanda, with some interest. He gave you his picture? Laura. No, it's in the yearbook. Amanda, disappointed. Oh, a high school boy. Screen image. Jim as high school hero bearing a silver cup. Laura. Yes, his name was Jim. Laura lifts a heavy annual from the clawfoot table. Here he is in the Pirates of Penzance. Amanda, absently. The what? Laura. The operetta the senior class put on. He had a wonderful voice, and we sat across the aisle from each other Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays in the auditorium. Here he is with the silver cup for debating. See his grin? Amanda absently. He must have had a jolly disposition. Laura. He used to call me Blue Roses. Image, Blue Roses. Amanda. Why did he call you such a name as that? Laura. When I had that attack of pleurosis, he asked me what was the matter when I came back. I said pleurosis. He thought I said blue roses. So that's what he always called me after that. Whenever he saw me, he'd holler, "Hello, Blue Roses." I didn't care for the girl that he went out with, Emily Meisenbach. Emily was the best dressed girl at Solden. She never struck me, though, as being sincere. It says in the personal section they're engaged. That's 6 years ago. They must be married by now. Amanda. Girls that aren't cut out for business careers usually wind up married to some nice man. Gets up with a spark of revival. Sister, that's what you'll do. Laura utters a startled, doubtful laugh. She reaches quickly for a piece of glass. Laura. But Mother. Amanda. Yes. Crossing to photograph. Laura in a tone of frightened apology. I'm crippled. Image. Screen. Amanda. Nonsense. Laura, I've told you never to use that word. Why, you're not crippled. You just have a little defect. Hardly noticeable, even. When people have some slight disadvantage like that, they cultivate other things to make up for it. Develop charm and vivacity and charm. That's all you have to do. She turns again to the photograph. One thing your father had plenty of was charm. Tom motions to the fiddle in the wings. The scene fades out with music.